What's up, everybody? This is Apollodite, and today I am excited to bring to you a very special video about Venus's transit throughout Taurus. So from March 31st to April 24th of this year, 2018, the planet Venus will be back home in her domicile of Taurus. So Venus rules Taurus, but she also rules Libra, the sign of relationships. She's the goddess of love and harmony and pleasure and balance, and really trying to find some sort of solid stability. And back in her domicile of Taurus, she's very, very strong, and she's at her strongest point, or one of them at the least. Now, some, including myself, believe that Venus is not the true ruler of Taurus. I personally believe that the planet Earth is. And so, due to the geocentric viewpoint that astrology takes, we have to give some planet Taurus. And so, in this case, Venus really embodies this Gaian-like state where she can really rule foundation and she can rule abundance and harmony in this sort of harvest-like state. It's very akin to Demeter or Ceres of Greek mythology and Roman mythology, where there's this very devotion to what it is that you can create and what it is that you produce. The myth of Demeter and Persephone really talks about the changing of the seasons, and Taurus, being this fixed earth sign, really talks about the cycles that we all go through as an individual and as a collective. Taurus rules this earth-like, Gaia-like embodiment, which can really create things, and it can really gestate and hold things in its womb, and to really create and supplement things that have a greater element of stability and support. And so Venus, being the goddess of relationships, this is also going to solidify a lot of relationship aspects as well. For those of you who have been looking to get into a physical union with some sort of divine partner, this is going to be the transit when that can really start to come into play and take effect. Because Venus had to experience a lot of different things when she was in Aries. And keep in mind that Venus in Aries is in her detriment. She's not at her strongest, and she has to focus on herself in order to survive. But now that she's back home in Taurus, where she can stop and smell the roses and everything's a little bit much more peaceful, and it's really calm, and it's all about serenity and finding some place to really create a sort of peaceful and artistic environment. Libra rules the arts, and Venus does by extension. She rules the creative arts. She rules what we can really enrich ourselves in. And Taurus in medical astrology rules the nourishment of the body, how well you can truly support yourself. And out of the three earth signs, Taurus is the most sanguinesque. It's the most pleasant. It has this very strong sort of deliciousness to it that the other two just don't really have. Capricorn and Virgo is just more dry and it's more serious. But Taurus, with its naivety and its youthfulness, has this ability to really just kind of do things one step at a time. And so a lot of the things that you've been really creating over a very extended period of time, this is when things are really going to start to come to manifestation. Not just in the relationships where you've been working on, but a lot of the projects and a lot of the sort of resources that you've been trying to collect and amass. For those looking for a financial windfall, this is going to be the transit for you, where you're really going to come into a greater level of abundance. But there's a catch, and it's going to depend on how well you really able to express yourself and be honest and real with yourself when Venus was in Aries for the past few weeks. With Venus on top of Uranus, this really activated a lot of the energy and a lot of the potential needed to really welcome in these sorts of relationships and these sorts of contracts. There's an element of divine timing that's always at play. And at this point, this is going to be the transit where you're going to be able to really manifest and to create a lot of the abundance that you really need in order to be who it is that you are. Keep in mind, Taurus is the second zodiac sign. It's after Aries. And so it supplements and supports your identity, your ego, who it is that you are. And so Taurus deals with this sort of unique flavor of us really starting to come into our self-worth and come into a full acceptance of our identity. And in the heart of Aries season, this is going to be a spot for us to really encourage us to really be the best self that we can be, to really treat ourselves, to really surround ourselves with the right sort of resources and the right sort of people and the right sort of contracts that are going to help you be the ultimate you that you can be. There's so many strong Capricorn elements that are going to be an aspect to this. And Venus throughout this entire transit will only find positive aspects to the other planets. And so with it, there's going to be this element of us really allowing ourselves to build ourselves up from the ground up. Now that we're in Aries season, we're starting the whole zodiac year over, and we're starting a brand new karmic cycle of the year. And this year, now that we're starting out with Venus and Taurus right out the get go, we have this ability to really generate and create a foundation and a sense of support that's going to continue us through this entire year. Venus is going to be in pretty decent signs up until she gets into Virgo. And so when she's in this strong Taurus like state, it's important that we really use this time to really support ourselves and to build ourselves up as best as we can. This is going to be the transit where your self worth is also going to be put into question. And Venus in Aries was all about you really learning more about yourself and learning more about your self worth. And now that we're in Aries season, you're going to become very much aware of it. And once the sun will shift into Taurus towards the later half of this Venus and Taurus transit, we're really going to become aware of a lot of the progress that we've made as individuals. And we're really going to be in a state of self-mastery. All this heavy Capricorn energy with Mars, Pluto, and Saturn in Capricorn really wants us to aspire to be the best that we can be and to separate from anything that doesn't really support us as a fundamental whole. Any sort of structures or any sort of individuals that don't really love us or support us are not fit to be in your life. And Venus and Taurus is going to reward you if you're willing to separate from these sort of unhealthy aspects and these unhealthy sort of issues. And Jupiter will be opposite Venus when he is in Scorpio. And so we have this sort of dichotomy now where we really have to look back at a lot of the ways we've been treating ourselves and a lot of the ways we've been really pampering ourselves and really allowing ourselves to kind of feel and to feel these sorts of peace and these sorts of ways of intensity, because the axis of Taurus and Scorpio is really all about a balancing act of quote unquote pain and pleasure, or at least what we perceive them to be. And this is also kind of a testimonial for us to really be the best self that we can be. Libra, or Venus rather, is a cardinal planet after all. And so it deals with a sort of active sort of decision that you really have to make. And it's all about how well you can truly reach out and to really look into the depths of who it is that you are and how well you can truly love and appreciate and support yourself. Venus also kind of deals with this element of appreciation and really doing a good job, and it rules production value. It rules how well you can truly create something of substance and some sort of possession that can truly represent you and who it is that you are. And so this transit is going to be only a few short weeks, but it's going to give you a level of self-mastery that we've never seen before. And Mars is going to be in its exaltation while Venus is in her domicile, and the two will be trining one another. So this is going to give us a very strong divine feminine and masculine theme to really come to a greater level of grounding ourselves in, to really give ourselves the ability to really ground the masculine and the feminine within us, and the masculine and feminine within our relationship aspects as well. And this is going to be the transit to help get you oriented back into your body so you can really balance and alchemize. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If you can truly come into a greater state of spiritual alchemy and purification, if you can balance these energies within you, and if you can balance them within you, that will show the universe that you're ready for a relationship that can balance you as an individual. And coming off of this Libra full moon now, we're really starting to balance out aspects of ourselves. And so this Venus and Taurus transit, it's no coincidence that this is going to be the time when you're really going to supplement yourself at the same time that you're supplementing other people. It's going to be how well can you truly love and appreciate yourself. And by doing so, you open the doors for other people to do the same for you. So I will now hop into the chart where I will break everything down decan by decan about how we're really going to manifest a greater level of abundance and self-worth. So I will see you in a moment. Okay, so starting off this transit with Venus and Taurus, Venus is going to be in Taurus from the 31st of March to the 24th of April. And so the first decan will be taking place from the 31st to the 8th. And I'm calling this decan the feeling ourselves part, because this first decan is ruled by Venus herself, as all decans are ruled by their natural sign ruler. And so with Venus and Taurus now, this is going to be the first part of things. And this is also going to be the least active of the three decans. And for the majority of this transit, Venus will be relatively unaspected by everything. She'll make occasional transits to the moon, but the real bulk of things is when she starts to get closer towards the 8th, when she starts to finally, or rather, trine with Saturn. And so Venus is the only planet in the entire solar system that can get along with Saturn, the ruler of karma and rules and regulations. And so having Venus in a trine here is going to be a very powerful thing because we have Saturn in its ruling sign and we have Venus in its ruling sign. So we have two very strong earthy planets in their natural sign. And so this is going to add to an element of relationship stabilizing. Keep in mind, Venus is just coming off of its conjunction with Uranus throughout the first part of this transit. And so this is really grounding a lot of the higher energies and a lot of the frequencies that you yourself have been generating. And Venus and Taurus is going to be a time when things really start to stabilize and come into form. When Uranus itself shifts in on May 15th into Taurus, this is going to be when things evolve on a quantum level. But for now, we're sticking to the basics. And Venus in this position where she's very, very strong, she's grounding us and she's very much putting us in our bodies and trying to stabilize us and keeping us in a very strong, dedicated sort of energy. Because Taurus is arguably the most loyal energy of all, because it's the fixed earth sign. It wants to be practical and realistic, and it wants to commit to something that's going to generate and yield results. The fixed energy of Taurus is so stubborn and it's so fixed, it can't move, even if it wanted to, for lack of, for better or for worse. And so this trine to Saturn is really going to crystallize a lot of the karmic based influences that are related to a lot of these relationships that you're going to be stepping into. And a lot of the relationships a lot of us have been looking for, this is going to be the first decan, which is going to give you sort of the comfort and a sort of the pleasure principle to really get back in touch with your body and what it is that really makes you feel fulfilled. Venus and Taurus is all about you mastering your self-worth and really honoring your boundaries and really making sure that you're making the effort to keep strong focus on who it is that you are and to not allow anyone to cross your boundaries or to disrespect you or to allow anyone to really throw shade at you. And if at this point you're not calling it out, you're not defending your self-worth. And so Venus and Taurus wants to reward those who have been putting the effort in. Venus in Aries was taking note of anyone who is really being raw with their authenticity and really expressing themselves and connecting themselves to other people in a very raw and real way. Venus and Taurus is going to really stabilize and really produce a lot. Taurus rules the second house, it rules your production, and it rules what you can manifest. And so this aspect is going to be very, very strong for manifesting things practically. And this trine is really going to give a lot of people a lot of focus and a lot of drive to really be practical and to really achieve their dreams. And as we're still in the depth of this Aries season, at this current moment in time, with the square to Pluto, there's really going to be a lot of separation from any sort of practical related projects that you might have or any sort of goals that you want to achieve. This is going to be a make it or break it transit where it's either going to fall completely apart or it's going to completely come together. And this has to be done over years. This is not just an overnight thing where you're just going to receive things. This is going to be a time where it's all about how well you can truly dedicate to really being the best you and really loving yourself and giving yourself the support that you need to really be who it is that you are in your fullest authenticity. Taurus is this Gaian-like, Earth-like mother kind of energy that's very unconditionally loving. And so Venus being here, she's really embodying this Gaian-like philosophy where she's providing and she's really nourishing and she's rich with abundance and love, and she just wants to gift and deliver these kind of sweet, beautiful, aromatic things. And this is going to be a transit for you to really pamper yourself, to really come back in. And this decan specifically is going to be the time to really empower yourself. The universe is giving us this kind of opportunity to really set ourselves up before things start to get a little bit tricky. The stellium, especially on this day alone, is really going to flush up a lot of the security issues that you have. And it's going to bring a lot of the issues regarding finances and physical goods and things and your career and your goals and what it is that you really aspire to be. And it's important that you be easy and gentle on yourself, because Venus and Taurus is all about taking things in stride and really stopping to smell the roses. Venus and Taurus wants to really do things one step at a time whenever she feels like it's the best time for her. And so Venus, in this maximum sort of efficiency, she's really going to reward those who don't rush things. Even though it's Aries season, it's all about adding production value and really adding quality to whatever it is that you're doing. It's not about just jumping the gun and trying to get everything done at once. This square is really going to exacerbate things and really try to force that energy. But it's important to understand that Venus and Taurus wants to keep us grounded so we don't lose ourselves and we don't ruin everything that we've been working so hard to achieve. And now that we're in the second decan, starting from the 8th, this is going to be when things start to get a little bit more finicky. The second decan of Taurus is ruled by Virgo and Mercury. And so there's this commerce-like attitude where it's really much about making important investments and decisions and making them not just in a sort of physical sense, but in a spiritual sense, where you're making the best choices based for you and what it is that you want, as well as what it is that you really need. And so starting off, we have an immediate square to the north and south node. At the same time, we have a trine with Venus and Taurus to Mars and Capricorn. And so it's interesting because we have the divine lovers of Mars and Venus back in signs where Mars is exalted and Venus is the ruler. And so there's this element of the goddess starting to rise. And this is going to be when things really start to play out. And now that we've reached the 20-degree mark of Aries season, a lot of the energy at this time is really going to pick up. And we're really going to become aware of a lot of these shifts and changes that we're personally going through. And Venus and Taurus is giving us this opportunity ahead of the game to really supplement and support ourselves, to really make sure that we're building up our self-esteem and our self-worth, and we're taking the time to really do things very practically and in a way that's really best for us as an individual. Keep in mind, Taurus is only the second of the 12 zodiac signs, and so there's this essence of being personal. Taurus is the succedent of Aries, and so with it, it adds value and meaning to your identity, and it adds an essence of worth. And so the second decan is really going to play on this, especially with the square to the north node and the south node. And on this specific day, we also have a square to the moon on the south node. And so it's very important that you really look at how you're treating yourself and how you've been treating yourself and how you've been surrounding yourself with all these relationships. The last time Venus was in a square to the nodes was when she was in Scorpio a few months ago around the fall, where she is very weak. And so now that Venus has this stronger state of self being and self-control and self-mastery after surviving Aries season and the conjunction with Uranus, she's got this sort of ascended Gaian-like mind, and this trine to Mars is really going to initialize a lot of relationships that are ready to be brought out into the physical, a lot of soulmate relationships and a lot of higher energy contracts that have been waiting to manifest for some time. Earth energy is ripe for manifestation, and Venus is going to be in positive aspects to a lot of planets throughout this entire transit. And so this is going to be an amazing transit that is going to reward those of you who have been working hard. For those of you who have been looking for some sort of support, this is what's going to come. Venus is going to help support and supplement you and strengthen your structure so you can really build yourself up as a person. And the square to the nodes is giving you this option to really focus on your value as an individual. And in this case, Venus and Taurus is sort of favoring the Leo side of things, where she can really be herself and she can really be in her higher state of self-worth and really love on herself and support herself. And so it's important that we take heed of this North Node and Leo lesson about following our heart and to really be the best self that we can be, to really value who we are and to value those who appreciate our identity. Are you valuing those who will be willing to sell you out for 30 coins? or are you willing to sell or to celebrate those who want to support you? And this isn't just relationships. This is going to just be any sort of sense of support or some sort of income or any sort of support structure that you're relying on. This is going to be a time for you to really change the narrative and to really give yourself the opportunity to really start things over, especially as Chiron's on the 29th degree, really encouraging us to let go of the past, to let go of the old, because once Chiron shifts into Aries, as we will see, things are really going to get interesting because Chiron takes forever to move from one sign to another. So having him shift into Aries is going to be a big deal. And with Venus and Taurus now, as we start to move forward, specifically on the 12th, we're going to be experiencing a sextile to not only the moon, but the planet Neptune. And this is going to be a very, very powerful thing because we have Neptune in its domicile and Venus in her domicile. And so having these two in lovely harmony with each other is really encouraging our creativity, but even more so, it's really giving us this divine feminine sort of aspect. Venus in Taurus is this Gaian-like mind. Personally, I believe Venus is not the true ruler of Taurus, but rather the planet Earth is, as is Gaia. And so Neptune and its domicile in Pisces is this divine feminine goddess sort of etheric aspect. And so there's this very, very strong ability to manifest things depending on how strongly you believe not only in yourself, but in the universe. How well do you truly believe that everything is going to come to you? And it's always in these moments of fear or doubt when things always tend to come true. But the key is you have to really believe and you have to trust. This is going to be a very magical and rewarding aspect, but only if you believe you deserve it. And at this point in time, you absolutely deserve it. The trine to Mars is still going to go on. And so there's this sense of us really connecting and balancing the masculine and the feminine, really nurturing ourselves and taking time out, but not forgetting to practically apply ourselves. Keep in mind, Mars is smack dab between Saturn and Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. And so Mars is in this extremely volatile kind of like work-like state where it's so focused on getting the job done and being practical. Thankfully, we have Venus in trying to really cushion and remind us to really stop and to really enjoy things as they are, especially because we have these great little sextiles between Neptune and Mars and Jupiter and Pluto. And so a lot of this feminine earth and water element is really allowing us to really malleate, to change and to allow ourselves to change our reality and our narrative based on how well we truly feel about ourselves and how well we can truly accept ourselves for who we really are. And the second decan, being ruled by Mercury, really wants to connect us with the right people in the right situations and all of the right sort of products and the things that we really need in order to get where it is that we need to go. For those that are looking for some sort of breakthrough or financial windfall, all you need to do in order to really welcome this in is to treat yourself with respect and create some sort of opening for you. This heavy trine is really going to give a lot of practical, realistic sort of energy for you to really allow yourself to manifest and to grow things. It's like the Seven of Pentacles in the tarot deck where you kind of plant the seeds and then you have to kind of wait a little bit. And so now the divine feminine and the goddess energy is really starting to pick up, especially as we start to wrap up in the third decan, which will end on the 16th. And this is when things really start to come into play. So at this point, Venus is at the 29th degree of Taurus in the third decan, ruled by Saturn and Capricorn, who she also just had the trine with not that long ago. And so this third decan is all about making commitments and really dedicating yourself into dedicating who it is that you are to a specific goal or cause that's in your highest alignment. As soon as Venus gets to the 20-degree mark, she's going to be in a trine with Pluto and opposite Jupiter retrograde. The last time Jupiter and Venus were in opposition to each other, Jupiter was in Libra and Venus was in Aries in her detriment. Now, Venus is in her stronger sign of Taurus. And so, if you think back a year ago, this is going to be when a lot of relationships and a lot of identity issues were really starting to come to the firm, yeah. And there was a lot of focus on who it is that you are, and a lot of the relationships that you find yourself in there's this element of you really coming back to that, but now you're really starting to supplement and to strengthen your identity and who it is that you are. And now that we've moved from the Aries Libra axis, oh, excuse me, my dog keeps barking. Now that we're from the Aries Libra axis to the Taurus Scorpio axis, this is going to be all about growth and expansion and how well a lot of the relationships that you're in can really expand not only who it is that you are, but how strongly you feel about yourself and how you can truly connect to another person in a very deep and powerful and even spiritual sort of way. This is going to be the aspect that really brings in a lot of twin flame relationships and that really allows people to really be their true authentic self. And this is going to be picking up on the 17th when we have the moon conjunct Venus. And now, finally, Chiron has shifted into Aries and Mercury is direct. And so now we're really starting to understand who it is that we are. With the sun on Uranus, there's no coincidence that all this is going on at the same exact day. The sun on top of Uranus, it's interesting because the sun and Uranus are opposite planets, where the sun rules Leo and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And so there's this element of us really starting to understand who it is that we are. Because Aries, the sign of our identity and our ego, is really all about our base desires, but more so with Uranus here, we're understanding who we are on a multifaceted, multidimensional level. Uranus is now at the 28th degree mark, and so this is really picking up a lot of energy. And it's at this point we're only a month away from Uranus shifting into Taurus, and so the shift is focusing. It's interesting. It stopped with Chiron and Pisces. It was about us really releasing any sort of issues that we had. But now that Chiron is in Aries, we're going to be focusing on a lot of the ego related issues that we're starting to come into. But this is going to be a good thing because now that Chiron's finally out of Pisces, which is this deep and heavy and mysterious energy, we're really going to start to understand who it is that we are. And we're going to work through a lot of the ego issues. Venus is going to help us out, especially because it's still in a positive aspect to Pisces. There's going to be this desire for us to really get to the deeper level of things, not only as an individual, but in our relationships and a lot of the structures that we've really supported ourselves with. If you think about it, since Libra is the opposite sign of Aries, relationships are naturally meant to support and strengthen you. And Venus in Taurus really wants to do that as well. This opposition to Jupiter is really going to give you a heightened state of awareness about not only the more deeper philosophical things, but also the more spiritual and etheric, where you're really going to feel and connect to people on an even deeper level. These two are still sextiling each other, and so there's these relationships that are forming that are real and they're true, but it's all going to be depending on how well you truly value yourself and you truly value your identity and how well you can truly love yourself. And this is going to be the time where you really have to nurture and supplement yourself. Taurus rules the five senses, and Venus here is extremely bougie. And thank God she is, because if she didn't have this sort of regality in Venus and Taurus, we would all just kind of be listening to boring things and eating boring foods and not enjoying life. Taurus is this very sanguinesque sort of sign. And unlike the other two earth signs, it's very rich and it's very kind of plump. Taurus is thick, let's be honest, and it deals with how well you can truly nourish your vessel. And so Venus here in Taurus wants to really nourish not only your vessel, but who you are at the core of your being and how well you can truly understand and appreciate yourself. And now things are going to start to get a little bit more interesting. And now that we move into Taurus season officially on the 20th, we're really going to come to a greater level of awareness because the sun deals with light and it deals with our cognition and how well we can see things. There's going to be us really starting to see a lot of the work that we've been doing. And this is going to be when a lot of the practical matter really starts to come in and crystallize. And as Venus starts to wrap up in Taurus, which she will be out by the 24th, things are starting to come to an end, especially as we have the sextile to Chiron and Aries. And as soon as she shifts into Gemini, we're really going to be communicating the awesomeness of who it is that we are. Chiron and Aries is going to teach us how raw and authentic we can truly be. Chiron and Pisces was all about how well you can truly forgive yourself and forgive others and to really release the pain. Chiron in Aries is going to be how well can you recover from the recovery. And Venus shifting in here is really going to give us a lot of the communication and a lot of the skills to really connect with other people in a way that really allows us to really increase the level of not just productivity, but our just sense of pleasure and our sense of love and being connected to one another. This is going to be an amazing transit overall because there's really not going to be any sort of harsh aspects, except the squares to the north and south node. But with it, that's really going to be an opportunity for us to really be who it is that we really are, and for us to really take a stand and make a fixed decision. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius all are fixed signs and deal with the fixed polarity, which is all about holding on to things and really making things that are long lasting. And Saturn, Mars, and Pluto in Capricorn wants to do things for good and to really sign the dotted line and seal the deal forever. And so, with it, there's this evolution of us really coming into the truest self mastery of who it is that we are. And it's no coincidence that this is going on with all of these heavy Aries aspects and heavy solar and Uranus aspects that are really starting to come up to the surface as well. And so overall, this transit is going to be amazing. But the key is you have to be loving on yourself. You have to be gentle with yourself, and you have to be willing to stand up for your values and what you truly care for about yourself. If you're selling yourself short, if you're giving your power away to somebody else, Venus and Taurus will offer you nothing, I'm afraid. And this is going to be the time where you're going to come into a lot of abundance and a lot of financial abundance as well. And usually there's not a lot of strong basic financial aspects in astrology, at least in my opinion. But having this opposition between Venus and Scorpio and Jupiter and Scorpio, which also deals with finances and other people's resources, you're going to really start to come into levels of hidden gems that you can really use for your practical advantage, especially with these positive aspects to Pluto, who is the god of wealth, the god of the underworld. He is the truth. He has all sorts of unspeakable information and valuables and knowledge. And so Venus is going to gain a lot over this transit, especially after surviving Aries season where she's very weak. And then once she shifts into Gemini, this is going to be when we get to really communicate how awesome we are, and we get to connect with people even more so, and not just on some sort of basic or superficial value. This is going to be about how awesome and magical you truly are, and these relationships are going to complement and support you. And so just make yourself open for any sort of opportunities for the universe to love and reward you, because I promise you, during this whole transit, the goddess Venus will be on your side if you are willing to do what's right for you and be willing to stop and smell the roses for once. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I truly enjoyed making this video. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. I truly appreciate it. And if you want daily content for tarot, be sure to follow me at Facebook and Instagram at Apollodite. And if you're interested in a personal reading with me, feel free to check out soulalignedAstrology.com. So thank you so much for watching again, beloved, and always remember that only love is real.